Hey guys, happy Wednesday, and I hope everybody's having a good afternoon. I'm gonna wait for my friend Jasmine to hop on, and we are gonna be doing a special chat today. She is someone that has a ton of hormonal health and just women's health and cycle and tons of information in this area, so I am super pumped to have her. In the meantime, before she hops on, I'll just share a little bit about kind of my story and what led me into being interested in this at all. It was definitely not a thing. So I'm not an expert by any means. This is something that is like new knowledge and new learning to me as someone who was on hormonal birth control, either the pill, IUD pill, for 15 years out of my 31 years of life, that it's just kind of newfound knowledge and things that I think all women should have. So it's something that we are not necessarily taught when we're young women, when we're teenagers or kids or girls growing up. And it's something that I think is so powerful, is to just be able to educate each other, share stories, and teach people from a younger age. So that's kind of what led me into being curious about hormones and cycles and all those kinds of things. So I'm super excited to have her on. Let's see if I can get her on. Maybe. Gotta love technology. All right, I'm gonna have to wait for her to hop on because it won't let me invite her. Let's see. Let's see if it works now. So if you guys have any hormone health questions, definitely feel free to pop them below and we'll try to get to them. We just tried to basically, we're going to chat a little bit about, we'll hear Jasmine's story, what she does and offers for women and hormonal health. And yeah, we'll just see if it works here. Accept. All right. I can see you. Can you hear me?
Winning. Yes, I'm like video camera so you can actually see my face and not just like the bottom half of it.
Yeah, no, it's cool. So when it's on half and half, it cuts off a little bit, but it works.
Yeah, okay, no worries. This is fun.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm so excited to have you here. I just briefly shared kind of what interests me in, or started my interest in hormonal health, was that, I was on birth control for so many years that I never learned about any of those things. Never learned about hormones or cycle or periods or what's normal or what's not normal. So, in my late 20s, early 30s, now I'm learning about these things. So it's very interesting to me and something that I think we need to be, more empowerment to women as a whole. And yeah, I'm just so excited to have you. So, Kate, tell us about you and kind of what you do and what led you into this world of hormonal health and coaching.
Yeah, totally. So maybe I'll just start with my story. So why
Sure.
I kind of got into it all, 'cause that is a huge piece in this. So about 2 years, okay, so back it up to like puberty. I was a late bloomer. So if anybody out there had their period at like 15, that was me, right? I was like so jealous of all my friends because they were having it at like 10 and I was like 15, 16, right? Because you're
But
like,
I don't think, side note, I don't think 10 is normal either.
no, it's totally not at all,
Yeah.
right? And girls are having their periods like so much earlier these days.
Mhm.
Crazy. Anywho, so I got mine at 15 and it was hell, like absolute hell. I had cramps from hell. I would sit at my fridge crying. I always like, I laugh about this one because I have, anybody who has period poops understands this, like fully, because I remember when I was like 16, I would tell my mom, I'm like, Mom, it feels like I'm giving birth. Like I would go 3 or 4 days without pooping just to avoid it because it hurts so bad. I
Oh.
tears and I'm like, I don't know why this hurts. Like this is awful. And just really heavy periods. And you know,
Mhm.
I played tennis and I played tennis in university. And so when I was in playing, my dad literally, he was like, Dad's like, can't do tournaments around your period because like you just don't have coordination on those days. And I'm like, I know, and I don't know why. I'm so
Mm.
confused. I was lethargic. I was like just like foggy, right? And just didn't, I never felt myself. Um
Mm.
and so yeah, so that was kind of like the start of my journey there. And and I grew up with a mom who had a hysterectomy at 27. So I didn't grow up with periods in my household at all because I was the
Mm.
right? And all my other aunts actually also had it. One had a
Mm.
hysterectomy, the other one. So we have a long, long history of endometriosis in my family. So my mom's was one of the worst that the specialist in the USA had ever seen, because it had gone all the way into her lungs, her diaphragm, and
Mm.
her bowel.
Wow.
And so I was always told just to watch me because it's hereditary. Anywho, fast forward, I'm 18, start having sex. My mom's like, get on birth control, like now. So I was like, okay, cool, I will. And I
Yeah.
get it. And oh my God, I was bonkers, like cuckoo bananas, not my normal self. I was crying every day, like literally
Mm.
crying. The mood swings are insane. Um, you know, I felt like crap all the time, and I could not figure out like why I didn't feel mentally okay, right? Like such bad anxiety. And
Mm-hmm.
literally within 2 weeks of this, I had called my mom, and she was like, "Who the hell are you? Like, get off of it now."
Mm.
And she knew, right? She was like, "Yeah, like it's definitely the birth control. Get off of it now. Try something else, right?" So of course, like I tried something else and same thing, cuckoo bananas. So I tried another one and that one wasn't as bad. And when I say not as bad, I was still having side effects. They just weren't as bad, right? Not as noticeable,
Mm.
not like manage them, which is nuts to think about, right? That we're just like, you know what? Like the side effects, they're okay. I guess I can handle this,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm not depressed. I'm just anxious. So we're good. We're good. We can do this. We can just do some like meditation and call it a day. And so I, used that for about a year and then the IUD kind of started becoming more popular, right?
Yeah.
And so I got an IUD and the IUD wasn't awful. Like my first one wasn't too bad. Getting it put in felt like nothing because my cramps were just like,
Oh, lucky.
yeah. Well, it's my first one didn't hurt that bad, but my cramps were literally just like the worst. Hi, Jen. Literally just the worst. And so I just remember being like, cool, like this is awesome. I'm a nurse, guys, and I suck at taking pills. The worst in the world. I wish I was better. I'm not. I was not very great with my birth control pills. And so the IUD was a great solution for me. And they were like, no side effects, right? So
Yeah.
liars, but like whatever. So that first one wasn't too bad. Okay. So like my
Mm.
first had it for 4 or 5 years. By year three, so I only ended up having it in for 3 years because by year three, I started having issues again. So I always had there's never a time with an IUD for like birth control isn't real, periods, right? But I was constantly bleeding with my IUD for 3 years. I was bleeding for
Mm.
about 15 days a month. I had PMS symptoms for about 15 days a month. So maybe there were like 2 or 3 days of the month that I like felt good, right? But I didn't have cramps. So
Mm.
kind of a win, but not really. And then I got my second IUD put in, and that's when like everything went to shit, literally. So the second IUD, way more painful putting it in. I was like sweating and in tears. I was like, oh my God, what is this? Right? I cramped for like a solid 24 hours after.
Poor
Blood,
baby.
like, yeah, a solid like 3 days, 3 weeks after. WTF is this?
Oh, it
And
was awful.
yeah, right? Anyways, and it was this one. So I only had this one in for about a year and a half. So I had that one in for a year and a half because it made me perimenopausal. So I actually
Mm.
went perimenopausal with mine to the point where I was having hot flashes. So it got so bad. So I was having hot flashes. I was having night sweats.
Mm.
I was having, oh my God, my breasts hurt every day. There was never like a day that I felt okay. I had really bad depression, really bad suicidal thoughts, anxiety. I ended up with my cramps are even worse. I had really bad pelvic pain to the point where I just couldn't have sex.
Mm.
Um, I ended up with vaginal and clitoral atrophy because of the lack of estrogen in my body. I ended up with, what else did I do? There's just so much with it. It was awful. Oh, and I got some intolerances too. So as soon as that IUD went in, I became allergic and intolerant, and I developed an allergy to gluten and
Mm.
dairy and eggs. which is actually, you know, they're actually quite common if you have hormonal imbalances and cortisol issues for you to develop a allergy to something you were never allergic to food wise. Anyway, so I had all these things happening and I went to see my doctor and he was like, well, you know, like you're stressed because of work and it's, you know, it's kind of COVID beginnings and, you know, I was still working in emergency. I was like, emergency is always, like, my job has never not been stressful. Like, did COVID kind of make it worse? Sure. Has it been shit for the last, like, 5 years? Yes. Like,
yeah, it's always busy.
always like a new, like, God, I'm not used to this at all kind of thing. Right? Anyways, and so I was just like, wow, okay, cool. And he was like, do you want an antidepressant? And I was like, no, I do not want an antidepressant. This is a hormone issue. I know this is a hormone issue. It's literally directly linked to this IUD. And I was, you know, I went online because, like, as we do, right, when we are dismissed a bajillion times, we're like, fuck it, like, let's look online, let's find some proof because I'm not crazy. I know my body. And, you know, I found like 5 articles on women with similar experiences with their IUDs, just different things, but and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go get blood work done. So I went back to my doctor and I want blood work. And so he did blood work on me, full hormonal panel, and I actually brought it to a naturopath that I was seeing for a jaw issue. And I was just like, can you interpret this for me? Right. And so he did, and he was like, you took this, like, because when you do hormonal blood work, guys, just for anybody out there who's like ever curious, you have to do it when you're ovulating because we want to know what your hormones are at the where they should be at their peak, right? Because if they're low at their peak, then that means we're not ovulating. Anyways, so I had it done then, and I was so low. He was like, you're in perimenopausal states, which he'd asked what that is. And that's literally that cycle you go through prior to menopause. So I was literally on my way to menopause at 25 years old. And so he told me, he was like, you're going to need hormone replacement therapy if you ever want to get pregnant. And we're going to have to start soon. And I was just like, no, I don't want to, I don't accept any of these answers. My problems are like, there's other things. I was like, you know I have hormonal issues and I am diagnosed with PCOS, right? So I know that I have that, but I'm like, but there's no way in hell that you can't manage this in another way. Like, why is birth control our only solution? It doesn't make any sense to me. And so I went back to my doctor to get the IUD out. And so, it's funny, and it drives me bonkers because he actually told me that I may not like the person I am with the IUD out. My family may not recognize me. And I was just like, cool, because I don't like her.
Actually, the other way around, buddy.
Yeah, right?
I would have been like
the version of me. She's in a fog. She constantly feels like shit and she snaps at everybody, right? And she's freaking laying in bed for 20 hours a day because she's depressed and exhausted. Anyway, so I got it taken out. And, the one thing I always say with this is when you come off birth control, it is like coming off an antidepressant. You can't just come off cold turkey. So I actually created a protocol for myself. And this is when I started doing all my own learning too. So I started taking courses for healthcare providers, like for medical providers, for coaches, for women's hormonal health and stuff like that. So I just started taking as many courses as I could. And then I started taking nutrition courses. I was taking, specific hormone courses. I was taking fitness courses, like all the things that you can think of. I was just doing it because I was like, I believe in holistic solutions. I know that there's a better way. And so anyways, and I actually started doing my Reiki practitioner stuff at that point too. So I was doing a lot of energy healing. And anyways, so that in itself, was beautiful because I started getting all this knowledge that I was like, why are we not taught this? Like, if more women taught this, they could heal their own bodies, right? And so that was whenever I completely changed everything for myself. I literally started a protocol for myself. I had a detox protocol. And then once I was off the IUD and had been off for 6 months, I got my blood work tested again, had seen my gynecologist. I grow teratomas as well. So it's just like another fun fact about me. So alien in my body, and they need to get surgically removed when they get too big. But the weirdest thing is they won't take it out until they get too big. And they're a harm to my body and could twist my ovaries. So it's really cool. So I just live with like these little tumors that bug my bladder. Anyway, and so I know they're so weird. Like if you guys are curious, like go look at teratomas like on the history. You'll probably be either really grossed out or really fascinated. And let me know which one you are. This one's name is Terry. My last one was yeah, I named them because like they just live. Right? Anyways, so yeah, so I healed myself and then I went, cool, I did this for me. How can I help other women do this? Because I know I'm not alone. And cousins, my mom, like right, like all of those women in my life go through and have asked for help but didn't have the ability or the want to do the years and thousands of dollars of courses that I did. And that's whenever I kind of started all of this, and that's why I started my company. It's literally a one-stop shop for women. It's not even just, I don't really believe in giving band-aid solutions. I don't. I believe in giving root level solutions. So we figure out like what is going on, right? For me, I have PCOS. I know why my hormones are doing doing, and I know what my hormones are. And it's teaching women and empowering them to take back control over their own health because you know your body best, right? Like if you were having a hormonal issue, you know all the symptoms that are happening. So I can't just be like, oh, like I bet this, and this just by looking at you. Like, no, like, and I just feel like we don't give women enough knowledge about their bodies or credit to heal themselves. And we live in a man's world where man's clock, we live in a man's lifestyle where it's so negative on our hormones, right? And so it's just little tiny things that we can do every day that can just help us work with our hormones versus working against them.
Okay, that was all beautiful. That was all amazing. I've never heard your full story, so that was so cool. One thing I think that really stuck out to me was I don't even know, when did you say you started birth control? Oh, 18. So you did have years of, maybe knowing your cycle, learning about your body. And that's one thing that's great, but you kind of lost that and you needed to like relearn it, right? So there's so many women out there that are in your shoes that, maybe they felt good or okay or great or knew their body and they kind of, lost that along the way or don't know how to ask for help, don't know what's wrong, don't know what's causing it. And then I think there is the other group, which is me. I was 14 when I went on birth control. I don't know what my normal cycle was. Don't know what it felt like. I didn't have a period for 7 years. Actually, more than that, like 15, I guess, because I was on birth control. But didn't have a withdrawal bleed for 7 years when I had an IUD. So I still learning all of those things, right? So we have such a mass of women that don't know or still learning or whatever, or learning to heal. And then we wonder why people have, not solely because, but we wonder why they have issues with mental health, with physical health, with nutrition, with fertility. Like these are things that, have such rooted issues for so many years. So I love that you said that, you want to find the root cause for people because that's truly what we need, right? It's not band-aids.
Well, and like two things from that conversation right there is one, it takes us so it's unique to every woman, but it can take us between 4 to 8 years to mature our cycles. So for me, I was put on birth control 3 years, right? And I had awful periods. I had PCOS. So like my periods were never normal. And it could have, like for my cycle, maybe it, could have taken me another 5 when I came off. So if I came off birth control when I was ready to get pregnant, good luck. Right? Good luck. I would have a really hard time, and that stress would have made things even worse. And then that's when you go on fertility treatments, and then you get all sorts of other, right? And then another too is that, okay, so I'm just going to get nerdy with birth control history here because it disgusts me, but it's also fascinating. So it actually it was never formulated or developed to be used long-term like we use it. So it wasn't until the early 2000s that became a thing. It was actually created for women who were in between pregnancies to give them to give them a little bit of a break between babies. And it was actually developed in Europe the UK. So the UK was the first one to do it. It was like the 1970s. The US kind of adopted it late 80s, early 90s. And that's when more women started going on it, but just to prevent pregnancies in between, right? Just to give them a break. And then it wasn't until like the late 90s, early 2000s that we started seeing more women go on birth control in their teen years. and for longer periods of time. So we don't actually have any data on effects of birth control on women. And one of the beautiful, like, okay, estrogen is amazing, and we completely wipe it out of our body when we're on birth control. It's gone. Okay. If anybody tells you, oh, but you have estrogen, you don't, you have fake estrogen, it's very small amount, menopausal.
And it's like
so
this.
it's right? Like we have sex,
Yeah.
right? And the thing with estrogen is it actually so they've got studies that show it helps prevent Alzheimer's. It helps prevent it helps. And also, can we just talk about the breast cancer rates in young women in like their 20s to 30s? Like, I personally think that it has something to do with this, because we're on a medication that literally says
long-term
maybe breast cancer, right? Because you're protecting your boobs. And then, I mean, there's so many things that estrogen does for your body, and it's so fabulous for us. And so when we take that away, it completely takes away our health. And that's why women actually have, you know, for the longest time, didn't have like heart attacks like men did, you know, later on in life. It's only now that you see more and more women in their 40s and their 50s having heart attacks. And it's because we don't have that estrogenic properties that are protecting us anymore, right? So it's really fascinating. And then also for birth control, your depression rate is, what is it? You're 4 times.
I read that.
Suicide, and 2 times more likely to become depressed on it. So I don't know about you guys, but like, that's disgusting to me.
When
like,
I read that, that was just heartbreaking. And I read about the link between like your ability to connect with people, whether it be your partner, yourself, in social situations. And I literally think, I'm like, I was literally 14. I was struggling with friendships. I was struggling with relationships. That was a part of me that was getting formed, and I didn't have a chance to actually probably feel or think the way that I normally would have in my body, right? I'm like, that's just, it's alarming, right? It's scary.
100%.
So crazy. Wild. Okay, so I know what makes you passionate about hormonal health. Thanks for sharing your story. What would you say are some things that are kind of normalized that actually aren't normal in hormones? So I've seen this lots where people are like, oh yeah, that's normal. And it's like, no, it's actually common. Doesn't mean it's normal or good or right for you.
Or healthy.
Yeah, or healthy, right? So what would you say are a few of those that you kind of see related to hormones or cycle?
Okay, I'm gonna get into this because I love this topic. There's that I liked. But okay, number one, actually, we're gonna quickly dive into like that perimenopause, menopause world. The fact that your libido will just go down when you're older because of your hormones. That is bullshit. Okay, women should have, you should just have a high sex drive all the time. Your period can influence that, but like, just because you're menopausal, it does not mean that you should not have a high sex drive. There's a lot of different things you can do to help bump up some of that estrogen level to help that. But like, that normalization is stupid. I hate it. It drives me bonkers because I'm like, no, everybody deserves to have great orgasms. The 95-year-old is getting it on, not a 40. Like, please, like, obviously not true.
Yeah.
There's more STDs in a nursing home than
that is so true.
Right? So like, that just tells us that like, it's a lie. Anywho, so that's one that I really like to beat because I feel like I hear it so much. Pelvic pain is not normal. So if you are having pelvic pain during sex on your period, that is not normal. That is a sign of something more happening. Okay, that much inflammation is not normal. Cramping is not normal. So you can have like mild cramps, but if you have cramps that are like debilitating and you need to take Advil and a day off of work, that is not normal. There's a lot of women out there with that, but it is not normal at all.
That's probably the most common thing I hear is the horrific pain or mood. And I think it's almost perpetuated by women because it's like, oh, well, it's just my time of the month. I'm just a bitch or I'm just grouchy. Like, it's perpetuated by men and women as like, I don't know, almost like an excuse or a badge of honor. Like, it's my period, I'm just going to be a cow for a week. Like, no, actually, that's not the way it should be.
So the truth behind that one is actually that our hormones are at their lowest at that time. So we're not hormonal. We're just like less likely to toss things under the rug because our bodies aren't trying to make babies. Okay. When our ovulating, like, if your husband
less progesterone, we're not as lovey and touchy-feely, but doesn't mean we're
no. So at that time, like, when you are bleeding, you're just going to be a little less likely to be like, oh, you didn't take out the trash, like, it's fine, or oh, you forgot. it's fine. Like, no, you're just going to stand up for yourself, which means we're more like men
More
emotionally.
assertive. Yeah.
So you're just being assertive and embrace it, love it. You
Mm-hmm.
like get that shit, out so that you can then, go back into your cycle. Breast pain and intense breast swelling. It's not normal. It's actually a sign of an imbalance. Fogginess, so that brain fog is not normal. And fatigue, that like insane
Mm-hmm.
is not normal. And that's one thing I see a lot of women having issues with is they're exhausted all the time. And we're almost like, we're just women. We're just exhausted. It's just who we are. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm. Again, like wearing it as a badge of honor. Like I'm just so busy and tired all the time, and I'll feel okay, then my cycle will happen or whatever, just in general, not even cycle related, right? It's just
yeah. So
like
like dragging
something
your
we say.
every single morning, like you wake up and you like, I used to feel like this. Like I would wake up and I'd be like, did I even sleep? Like I know it says I slept for like 10 hours, but like 95% sure I did not. I think I just like was up in the night, like doing things, dancing around because I feel like trash, right?
Mm-hmm.
At all. Heavy periods are not normal. That's another thing. One thing too that I always like to just shed light on and bring awareness to is that clots, mild clots can be normal, big clots not so much, right? But also be aware of what's a clot and what's tissue, right? Because we're shedding a lining. It's like actual uterine
Mm-hmm.
tissue. So you'll see some things that are tissue and you'll see some things that might be clots. And it's some of them could be clots on top of tissue. So just know that like you're going to be shedding chunky stuff and that's totally
Mm-hmm.
normal. And I don't know, I'm trying to think of like anything else that I want to toss out there. Oh, weight loss issues. I feel like there's so many things where it's like, oh, menopause, gonna have to suck it up, can't lose weight, right? And I'm like, oh. And also for any of my other PCOS girls out there, like you can 100% like be in the body that you want to be in, right? Like it doesn't matter what that body looks like. That's up to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to just feel better and whatever, like that's awesome. And you can do that. So I feel like a lot of us with PCOS are told, oh, you're just going to be overweight. You can't do anything about it. And it's bullshit. It's complete
Mm-hmm.
bullshit, right? It's just that we have to move very differently. We have to eat differently. There's so many different things you have to do for your unique body. But I think those are some of like the most common ones that I hear all the time that I'm like, no, this is not normal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think we have to, like we said, like stop that perpetuation. Like it comes with us, like starts with us first. Like we get to choose how we think about it, how what we say. Like don't
Mhm.
let your body, that's something that's beautiful and super powerful and doing something really cool, like be an excuse to say you're, oh, label yourself, right? I'm XYZ or I have this, so I can't do this. So yeah, that is so important, I think. Okay, so what would you say if somebody's like, I mean, maybe me 2 years ago, like, I have no idea where to start, what to do. Like, I'm interested in hormonal health, or like maybe they don't even know they have issues, right? Because I think that's a lot of people too, is our bodies are really great in the way that they want us to feel good, like they want everything to be kosher. So if feeling shitty is kosher for our body and it's like status quo, it will continue to do so and we won't really know that it's like that bad, right? So I do think a lot of people don't know how bad they feel, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, because our bodies are trying to protect us in that way. So what would you say for someone who's like, I really, want to start digging into maybe my cycle or hormones or seeing if I have any kind of issues? Where would somebody start?
So I think for that one, it's going to be, I always say like start with you, right? So start understanding your cycle. So if you're on birth control, it's going to be different. But like if you are
Mm-hmm.
on control, we'll start there. Start taking like for 30 days, just have a journal. Have a journal and everything that comes out that you have all these like symptoms, right? So if you're feeling really tired, if you're feeling
Mm-hmm.
really anxious, if you're having these panic attacks, if you're feeling really depressed or foggy or cloudy or whatever, go through and maybe I'll make a freebie for this. So come back to my page in like 3 days. Have something. But basically, just like write out like what you're experiencing throughout those 30 days because give you kind of a blueprint of like, okay, like cool. And then you'll review it and go, okay, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here that isn't normal, right? That I've just
Mm-hmm.
saying. So just write everything down, right? Um, And then for, my women who are cyclical and having periods still, what you're going to do is you're going to do this throughout the month, but I want you to download like a period app, right? I want you to start tracking your cycle. And so when it comes to tracking your cycle, what you're going to do is you're literally just going to, they're super simple, like there's apps on it, but all you got to do is, it's so easy. But just start on that day, and you can start when you bleed, right? I would say like maybe start when you're bleeding, because then you have that starting point.
Easier,
right?
yeah.
So it's so much simpler that way versus like starting like halfway through, not understanding what the different phases are, not understanding your body quite yet. And so, just start, on your bleed, just go, cool, like heavy period, what color is it, all those different things. And I have a blog, guys, so if you're curious about a lot of this stuff, I have like a lot of information that you can go and soak up in my blog. But what the color of your period means, what's normal, what's not normal, all of those kind of things, so go check that out. But anyways, so with that one though, you're just going to basically put like what's going on throughout the month. How are your breasts feeling? How are you bloating, right? Because gut health is directly related to hormonal health. So are you having really painful poops, like all those kind of different things, constipation, diarrhea, right? Because we do get constipation at certain times of the month just because of hormones. And so really just going through that and figuring out what your body's telling you. Everybody's body's going to be different, because my cycle is going to be very different than yours, right? And what it shows me as I'm going through different things is going to be very different. And I think just it's really starting off there and learning what your body's telling you, learning your cycle, right? Because, that's huge. But another thing too is I do free discovery calls for any woman who just wants to know if they need to work on their hormones, or just wants a little bit more information, or just to talk to somebody about their body who actually listen, right? And so they can book that, and I have a link for you for that, and you can go ahead and book with me. But like, I think the biggest thing that women just need to do when it comes to all of that and where to start is it's starting with you, and starting with trying to do your best to understand your body, right? So
that's like the best advice.
Okay.
It is like it's simple, but it actually is not simple in the fact that like it takes time. Like I said, I didn't know my body or my cycle for so many years that learning each month, I'm like, oh, I noticed this month, this day. What did it say last month? Like on my little app, or oh, I wrote this note in today. This is what I'm feeling. Let me go look at last month, and like, figuring out how that works. And I think something that again is a myth is like, that's it, you bleed, that's it, done, like whatever. The rest of the 3 weeks in the month doesn't matter is like, I also think a myth. It's like you either bleed, you don't bleed, you're pregnant, you're not pregnant, right? But there's so much in those 3 weeks that is important, and we do need to learn. And I think we do need to learn years and years ago probably, but that is the best advice, because I don't think we know what's going on until we're tracking. And I don't mean tracking for like a month. It took me, I think, 6 months to have like a regular cycle post birth control. Yeah. And I'm still learning. Like one day I'm like, oh, a little longer this month, wonder why, like better go check out my symptoms. Or, oh, a little shorter this month, better go check out my symptoms. Like you'll learn so much.
There's going to be a lot of women out there with PCOS and endometriosis who are going to have really funky cycles. So just know, like, that's also a thing to look out for. If your cycle is not clear and you're getting one like, oh, it's been 30 days and then 60 days and then 40 all over the map, that's a huge sign of that, right? Of having that kind of, it's a bit more intense. There's lots of things you can do naturally to fix that, right? But kind of going from there and doing it.
Another myth that I thought when we were chatting, what came up was a fear I had. So definitely a myth is like, it's going to be so bad off birth control because XYZ is going to return. So for me, it was like horrible skin, heavy periods, like the myth that it will feel so much worse off of it that we have to be scared to go off, right? So I think that's a big one.
It's huge. But the one thing I will caution though is that there are going to be women who will have those come back, and they will. And I'm not going to say like you're going to come back off birth control and it's going to be perfect, because it won't.
But the birth control didn't fix it, which I think is another awareness thing. Is it did not fix our issue, whatever it was. No, it's just that Band-Aid.
Yeah, and like I think the biggest thing too is it's just going, okay, cool. So now I'm off my birth control. I have the symptoms that I was having before, maybe new ones that have popped up. Now let's what these are telling me, what these mean, and let's work on them.
Yeah.
without it.
I think that's so true.
Yeah.
100%. Okay. So what would be maybe like top 3 tips you would say for just hormonal support in general, I guess, if somebody's like brand new? Track your cycle would be the first one, like get to know yourself.
So
What would be a couple other tips you have?
Okay, one other tip that I have a blog post about it. I swear by them. They're called Castor Oil Liver Packs. They're the
Which I've
bomb.
never heard, so please tell.
Yeah. So they're super, super cool. Basically you take castor oil, you pour it on your tummy, particularly like your liver, but then also your intestines, so just all over your abdomen, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll put a cloth over top. Don't use a nice one, it might stain it, so please don't. And then a hot pack on top of that, and then you hang out there for like half an hour, and you can do it, I've done it every day. You can do it, and that was when I was coming off my control. You can do it every couple days. You can do it once a week, every other week. Like, you do you with it, right? But what they do is they actually help stimulate our parasympathetic nervous system. So it helps us get into our rest and digest, which really helps with stress, because stress is awful on our hormones. We have a lot of issues, and there's a lot of science behind it. And I get into it with the course that I'm creating, but like, honestly, it's quite in depth, and it would take me probably half an hour to explain stress to you. But just know it's like quite intense. And so when it comes to those guys, it actually also helps you basically just detox your intestines, which is great. That health helps our hormonal health. And then it also helps you detox the liver, which birth control actually causes structural and functional changes to the liver. So our livers don't function as well on birth control and coming off of it. So this actually just gives your liver a little bit of extra help. But he struggles with like extra estrogen or stuff like that. It just helps flush it out of the body, right? But overall, they're amazing. And I honestly, I think every single client that I have falls in love with them. I've yet to have a client use them and not be like, this is like a staple in my life now, right?
Okay, I will try. I will faithfully try. Is there a certain time of your cycle you should do it, or any day?
No, you can do it any day.
Okay.
And the one thing when it comes to them is that don't do it when you're pregnant, okay? Because like it can cause contractions. So do not do it. That's my big forewarning. Don't do it if you're pregnant. And then I always say do it before bed, because like you're kicking in that rest and digest. Do it before bed. You will be shocked at how much better you sleep. Like, and then my number 3 is going to be this is going to be one, like, I tell my clients this and they're always like, really? Like, this feels really weird. But then when they start doing it, they just love it. Stop working out on your period so hard. Okay. There's so many women who are told, just push through it. Just push through it. Just push through it. If you don't want to push through it when you're bleeding, don't push through it. You're literally, if your goal is to lose weight or to gain muscle, you're going to gain fat. No offense. Like, that's what's going to happen. So when we push our bodies, especially while we're bleeding, to like do this heavy exercise, to do HIIT workouts, to like go 5K, right? Like, please schedule your 5Ks around your cycle. That's just like a PSA there. And we actually end up having like stressing our bodies out completely. We don't have the hormones to support it, which then means we get more tired, and that in itself will cause you to gain fat, right? Like, you're actually opposite of what you're wanting to do. So I know I've been told by trainers my whole life, just push through it, just push through it. I know you're tired, just push through it. And it's like, no, I'm bleeding and I'm exhausted and my hormones are bottomed out, and this is bottomed out more. Like, I'm just going to nap. So I literally have my girls either, I have them nap, or I have them do like a light walk, right? Like, just do kind and restorative to your body. And when I say yoga, I'm not saying like a power flow. Like, please go do like a yin, right? Like some days maybe nice.
Yeah, no hot yoga.
Right? Yeah, no, like,
yeah.
But it's just being really.
Yeah, it's important too, I think, to know that like you get to decide how everything looks for you, but like in particular, like your choice of movement has to feel good to you. So if it's, if your body is working harder on the days that you're going through your cycle, like, or not even then, but like throughout different parts of your cycle, that once you start learning that, like, start with tip 1, once you start learning that, like, give yourself that grace to say, I'm going to adjust today, or maybe I won't do this today. You mentioned, we're such in a man's world, and I do, like, I'm a do, go person, that like I 100% feel that not necessarily with workouts, but like, you know, that need to always be doing and on the go. So that is, I think that's common for women too, is having to always be on versus, you know, giving ourselves rest when we need and healing. So that is super important too.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Okay.
feel that. Okay, well, I think that was awesome. That was lots of info. If people want to find out more, of course, like I said, I am by no means an expert. I am learning, but I think that's a cool part too, is that we can, you know, learn from each other and empower each other. And until we ask questions, until we start saying, hey, I'm feeling this, or hey, why is this happening? Asking questions, sharing. Like, I never thought I'd be talking about like birth control, condoms, and cycle support ever, ever in my life. But here we are. So I think it's just cool that we can do that to help ourselves, but also to help others. So please check out Jasmine's page if she's got, if you guys have questions at all, she's got tons of info on there and lots of tips
Feel
and
free to.
tricks.
I don't bite. So if you want to message and you
totally. Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Jasmine. That was lovely. See ya.
Bye.